So, as you know, we have been covering a lot about the Saudi Arabian takeover of esports, which is a very real thing that's happening. And it was announced on January the 2nd that not even Riot Games were going to be immune to this takeover. And even though Riot Games historically haven't done international tournaments with third-party operators in charge, suddenly, out of the fucking blue, they decided they were going to do it for Saudi Arabia for the Esports World Cup. Now, again, as I've said in previous streams and I've alluded to on the Esports Gospel, something is afoot in the background that probably will be out public by the time this video makes it to YouTube. But what's going on is the Esports World Cup are trying to get more and more people to run teams, to have teams for their games, and it looks like it's going to be a stipend program is what they're doing. And so if you've noticed at a time when everyone is supposed to be broke, what's actually going on is, and you know, they're picking up teams in games they didn't have before, what's actually going on is the Esports World Cup is paying for that by a stipend on the proviso that those players are going to be entered into their tournament. So we've gone from an era of esports, it used to be pay to play, then it was free to play and you keep all the prize money, and now it's we'll pay you, right, to just compete in our tournaments to give them legitimacy. And that's going on. It's problematic. It's a layer cake of conflict of interest that we'll have to deconstruct at some point, but not for now and not for today. But anyway, the Esports World Cup is the new big shiny thing. It wants to have every game at Gamers 8, and it wants to be the be-all and end-all of esports and have the world's biggest, which it will by easily, the world's biggest prize pool. Tens of millions. It's going to clear everything. The Dota tournament's going to be bigger than TI. It's, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, people thought, oh, well, at least Riot Games are immune. At least Riot Games aren't going to be falling into that trap. Well, you know, lo and behold, they have. They have agreed, and it was Jacob Wolf that initially reported this on the Wolf Report. They've agreed that they are going to allow the Esports World Cup to invite two League of Legends teams from each of the major regions to come and compete in a World Cup tournament, which will basically have the format of MSI, even though the format hasn't been revealed yet. So, you would think, right, Riot Games, who have been this huge, very vocal proponent of diversity and inclusion initiatives, particularly since 2018, when Cecilia D'Anastasio did this investigative report that showed there was a systemic sexist problem at Riot Games that then got picked up by the state of California. They had to settle. They didn't settle initially. In fact, they tried all sorts of silly buggers, as they say in Britain, to get out of it. But then in the end, they did settle, and they also put some initiatives in place. And a lot of these initiatives were set up somewhat cynically after the negativity. So that's how that went down. Now, I would have thought that Riot Games would realize the tonal inconsistency of saying we stand with the LGBT community and then doing business and literally doing exceptional types of business, the type you wouldn't let anyone else do, with a government, directly with a government, you understand, that criminalizes homosexuality. That even, technically, even though it's not codified, criminalizes trans people because of the strict Sharia dress codes. It seems inconsistent. And so I was like, Riot is going to speak out about this. When Neom, that sponsorship deal, came out and they were like, we're going to be the title sponsor at LEC and everyone's going to have to do these Neom reads, there was a threat of strike action. People were going to walk away from it. And in the end, what happened? They changed it up. They said, no, we're going to get rid of it. And the Saudi Arabian state was furious. We'll come on that in a second. I will read my report. So I was like, well, Rioters will speak up about it this time. But, unfortunately, that's not the case. There's a group within Riot called the Rainbow Rioters. And as the name implies, because obviously the rainbow is the LGBT symbol, the Rainbow Rioters is a group set up to represent the interests of the LGBT staff members at Riot. And so I got sent, because, you know, I have this extensive source network, and everybody talks to me. I got sent some internal Slack messages from Riot, and it was about the messaging about what, you know, how are we going to frame doing an event in Saudi and caring about the LGBT community. And some staffers are pissed off. But the people in leadership position of the Rainbow Rioters, they are literally gaslighting everyone into saying this is a net good to do business with a state that would literally execute you if you were to, kiss your partner in public at the wrong function. So it doesn't feel like a net good for me. But anyway, I got people have these concerns. They sent me the internal Slack messages. So, on January 2nd, veteran esport reporter Jacob Wolf published a story that revealed Riot Games, the creator of titles such as League of Legends and Valorant, will be participating in the newly created Saudi Arabian World Cup in Riyadh. The move represented an unprecedented break from tradition around their international tournament circuit and working with third-party operators to create events on their calendar. While they are not alone in getting into bed with the Saudi Arabian state, definitely not, to fund their esports output, the move has been met with some criticism from the community. The key issue is a classic clash of words versus deeds. Riot Games has been a vocal supporter of LGBT causes down the years and has partnered with a number of charities and initiatives to this effect. Saudi Arabia, being a theocracy that operates in line with Sharia law, criminalizes same-sex sexual activity. While these laws are not codified, it is generally agreed upon that the maximum penalty would include the death penalty. Trans people could also fall afoul of laws surrounding dress codes. Even with this being true, as Saudi Arabia invests more into entertainment, sport and technology sectors, many have since taken to their platforms to suggest that Saudi Arabia is becoming more progressive. It is worth noting that in 2022 alone, the Commerce Ministry officials in Riyadh undertook a mass seizure of rainbow-coloured toys and children's clothing and only released a gay influencer from prison for posting a photo of himself in swimwear after global condemnation. Internal Riot Slack messages sent to this publication by concerned staffers showed that there were also apologists for the Saudi regime, even within the very group designed to represent LGBT individuals at the company. The Rainbow Rioters are one of the many diversity groups set up within Riot Games, many of which were created in the aftermath of a devastating expose published by Cecilia D'Anastasio, then at Kotaku. As you would expect from the name, the goal of the Rainbow Rioters is to foster LGBTQIA plus communities and products at Riot and beyond. That's their quotes, not mine. Which has led to some internal discussion around how appropriate it is to do business with a government that specifically criminalizes homosexuality. In a Slack conversation, someone in a leadership role at the Rainbow Rioter group, whose name we have redacted, chimed in to discuss the complexities when thinking about localization before concluding it was actually a net good to present watered down or modified versions of their LGBTQ content in regions with laws against gay and trans individuals. They insisted this is how we make a difference. Cue the Uncut Gems meme. This is how we win. Except, this is how we sell out would be a more appropriate fucking statement. But anyway. Hi, folks. I've been hawkishly following this thread. As a leader of Rainbow Rioters who has helped drive some of the Pride content we do for players, I wanted to offer some context. Riot always say this. Whenever they get caught fucking up, the one thing guarantee a Riot exec to say, or anyone of prominence at the company, they always say, let me offer some context. They don't even add context. They offer it to you. It is something that only they can know. You can't figure out the context. Only Riot knows the context. We don't add it into what's already there. We offer it to you, a resource that only we have, that we offer to you, that you must graciously accept. This is Riot Games. They are mental. Anyway, when we talk about Pride content, there are enormous complexities when thinking about localization and publishing when it comes to every single country that our game is played in. You can imagine the spreadsheets and local cultural input that is needed for such a project. When I think about the countries where LGBTQ plus issues are hot topics, there's a gradient of how much we can help queer players in that country feel recognized. Sure, I'd like it better if we could promote inclusivity and have all of our LGBTQ plus content on full display in every country equally. But that's not the way the world works, and consequently, we must find other ways to push the envelope. So I just want to say, by the way, thank you, leader of the Rainbow Rioters. Next time you lecture anyone on in a sanctimonious way in America, if they have a different opinion to you, they can now just turn around and go, but that's not the way the world works, mate. You agree. You nominally agree. You've said it there. It's not the way the world works. So I guess that's it then. You've surrendered the moral high ground forever on that premise alone. Sorry. Not everyone thinks the same. That's the way the world works. You can shut the fuck up now. Well done. So it's good to know what you really think and what you'll really say behind closed doors. In some countries, we get to release Pride emotes, but under different localizations, such as Festival of Colours. So get this. I didn't even know they were doing this. What they've been doing is they put out Pride emotes, and I even checked with someone. Apparently, it is a rainbow, but it's just not in the order of the rainbow. The colours are jumbled up, and they call it a Festival of Colours. And this is a wink, wink. We can't call it that, but it is that. In some countries, we choose different images for publishing articles that only show queer characters hugging instead of kissing. So, in other words, you censor yourself. You censor yourself for tyrannical regimes. You censor yourself for regimes that persecute gay people. Yeah, we know. We have noticed. We have actually noticed. We've seen these things. We try to meet the country where their viewpoints are at, but pushing it forward by a few degrees. That way, we don't alienate players and also help LGBTQ plus players feel seen to the best of our ability. So obviously they admit that it's sort of a failure overall as a concept. My understanding is that one key difference for how this event will be different than some past events that had cultural sensitivity concerns. Remember, by the way, we got to be super sensitive about their culture. Right? It's got to be... dear gays, can you dial the gay down because the Saudis don't like it? How is that an acceptable thought process if you're serious about gay rights? You wouldn't accept it in a European country. You wouldn't accept it. But you'll accept it in Saudi, you'll accept it in China, you'll accept it in South Korea. You just dial... You are being a bit flamboyant, though. It's like... That's literally what bigots used to say when we were having the big gay rights fight, back in my day. It's pathetic. It's like, it's pretty, and it's coming from a member of the LGBTQ community. Cultural sensitivity concerns. Anyway, it says here, the difference is we will not accept content restrictions in our game. The organisers or the country can't ban Cassante from being played in the tournament for any reason, including the fact that he's gay. The same goes for other content regarding female characters or other demographics. So, I imagine a team of champions that consists of Graves, Twisted Fate, Cassante, Diana, and Leona, all champions with queer identities, all playable in this tournament hosted in Saudi Arabia. That is one example of how we make a difference while meeting the country where they're at. So, basically, what they're saying is, these characters that might have lore that Saudi Arabian people don't see, they're not taking those characters out the game. That's the big win for your gay rights. That's a Rainbow Rioter explaining to you why it's okay to take money from a regime that would imprison you for who you are. So, anyway, if you think that's just like a leadership and that they're alone, there was another message here, and it said, thank you for addressing this. As a Rainbow Rioter, I think that our participation has a net positive effect here. We have a large community in that region, which includes LGBTQIA+ individuals and women. We know for a fact that not all players feel safe enough to come out in certain countries. And it's like, yeah, so why don't we just not have tournaments in those countries? It's insane because it's like, when I showed you that article of that, head of the Norwegian esports federation, and they were like literally, going, no, we can't guarantee the safety of the athletes, which should be the bare minimum to run an event, you would think. But no, actually, it isn't. We can't guarantee their safety, so, tough titties. We're taking the money anyway. They are engaging with our games and even playing professionally. By participating in the events in the region, we can promote our values indirectly and show support to all the players, including those from the underrepresented groups. We also have an opportunity to have positive impact on the gaming community as a whole, especially if we work around the messaging. So now they're admitting we've just got to come up with a lie that everyone thinks is cool, why we participate, etc., to address any concerns. Players always appreciate when we are being transparent and honest as much as we can. They admit they lied to you. They admit they lied. They're going to lie about this. Let's just dress it up. We can't always be honest and transparent. Why not? Why not? Why can't you? Always happy to chat about any concerns. Yeah, probably the laws, or if any help with positioning is needed from the regional point of view, and if you folks find it helpful. So just for extra context, I'll continue reading my article here. For those who find this surprising, you should cast your mind back to what happened in July 2020 when Riot announced that the Saudi Arabian mega project Neom, a modern megacity built on land stolen from the nomadic Howatat tribe, was to be a major sponsor of the LEC League. Despite deliberately delaying the announcement so it wouldn't coincide with Berlin Pride Week, many of the League of Legends broadcast team and crew were vocally against the deal, and a potential strike was proposed. Within a few days, the staff protests and public backlash led to Riot Games terminating the deal. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, Saudi Arabia was so incensed at the collapse of the deal that the Neom chief executive, Nadim Al-Nasser, called an emergency meeting where he threatened to pull a gun from under his desk and shoot individuals reporting to him. Read that article in the link. Go to the Wall Street Journal for that. Talked about that in another video as well. Publicly, Riot Games deemed the business deal to be such a transgression, they issued a public apology via Twitter, saying they knew their actions hurt and alienated our community, particularly LGBTQIA+ individuals and our players in the Middle East. And it does beg the question, well, what's changed? Why doesn't it hurt them now in 2024 if it was hurting them in 2020? What's the difference? They can't explain it. Reporting later emerged that internally, it was my reporting, because of course it was. Reporting later emerged that internally Riot executives actually believed the only thing wrong with the deal had been the timing. One anonymous source said, the management who made that decision are completely safe in their jobs. In fact, when the strike was being discussed, the North American headquarters got involved on their side. They may have reversed the deal, but the people who negotiated it in the first place have been reassured they did nothing wrong except maybe the communication process. So we were obviously going to get back to a deal with Saudi. The internal messages show how much has changed since then, with the people with the most to lose from esports being dominated by Saudi Arabian influence actively speaking out in support of the move. It is an especially strange about turn when you consider that on Riot's official website, in a profile with a member of the Rainbow Rioters from June 2022, the Neom deal is specifically referenced adjacent to the phrase, we know we are coming from a difficult place and we've had some bad experiences, but we're really working hard to address it. That place just got a whole lot more difficult. Now, because I've been so busy with the move and everything else, I won't keep boring you about it. I left out a kind of key crucial detail that's definitely worth bringing up for posterity in the video. And that is, as part of kind of the mea culpa when all of that shit was fucking popping off and people were getting super upset with what Riot had done. One of the things they agreed was this, and they'd created a Global Deals Council, is what it was called. This was by Trent Murray over at the Esports Observer, and it said here, report, Riot Games establishes Global Deals Council in the wake of Neom backlash. Riot Games is looking to establish a Global Deals Council and Ethics Committee, according to a report by ESPN. Oh, my bad. The original report was by ESPN. So I'm guessing, was Jacob still there at that time? Anyway, the company informed employees of this plan in a company-wide call on Thursday. According to the report, the council will feature representatives from Riot's global esports team, social impact division Karma, diversity and inclusion, as well as legal teams, and will report to the senior vice president Mark Sottosanti and Brian Cho, head of corporate and business development. The Ethics Committee will operate separately from the Deals Council and will have a hand in evaluating deals as well as discussing company direction and relationships with both global partners and countries. So, what happened to that? Where's your Global Deals and Ethics Council today, dickhead? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? And why isn't it saying, oh, hold on a minute, Saudi Arabia. Yeah, it's gone. They're not. Did it ever exist? We don't know. Well, guess what? We're going to look into that. I'm gonna track this down. I'm going to research it. I'm actually going to bother reaching out to Riot for comment just to get told to fuck off by Riot for the millionth time for trying to be reasonable with them. But this is the ridiculous component to it all, because they specifically said after the Neom deal, we're going to create a thing to make sure there's never another Neom deal, while secretly internally going, we did nothing wrong about the Neom deal. It's so crazy that that's even a thing. So, yeah, go and read that article, spread it wherever you can, maybe not Reddit, because it's really sad to see that even people in leadership positions from the LGBT community are kind of making these excuses. And there is no excuse. The bottom line is, if you stand with gay people, if you stand with trans people, you stand with them in the places where they are oppressed. You don't stand with them in the places where they're not, because it doesn't mean anything. They don't need you to fucking ally up and hold their hands in the spaces where they're welcomed and loved. That's pathetic. That's actually, you're using them in that instance. You're going, oh, look how we stand. Look how we all stand together. Can I have some cultural capital, please? And then, you go and do business with a regime that fucking is locking gay people up. In 2019, they imprisoned 5 people for being gay. For no other reason. You can't justify this. So one of the things I really hate about the way modern American corporatism has gone, and the way that I just think social media makes fools of us all. Speaking as a member of the Alphabet Club, which is a card I never play because who gives a fuck? The bottom line is, look, corporations don't give a fuck about anything. They are using you as human shields when they come out and do all these things. Oh, look how we champion. Look how we champion you. Look how we love you. And it's like, they're just doing it to sell more shit. They're just doing it because it's vogue right now. They don't really care. Because if they really cared, they would take that spending power and influence, and they would go and fight the battle in a place where it's actually hard to try and move the dial in the right direction. But they don't, so they use you. And the thing that disappoints me about the LGBT community is how many of them are so sort of content to be used. I feel validated. You're being used. Wake the fuck up and just say no to this shit. Like, if a company does business with the Saudi Arabian state, they don't really care about gay lives. In the same way that if a company says Black Lives Matter, right, and then they take products mined, from mineral mines in Africa where black children die, you don't really care about black lives. You care about black consumers' lives. That's not the same. It's never been the same. And if you can't see the difference, then you're going to get fucking played. And that's what's happening here. It's fucked up. It's sad to see once again another company that has dined out on this faux LGBT support. Oh, we've made a character gay, worship us. Will you say no to the Saudis? Well, no, it's complicated. And we do have cultural sensitivity considerations. Fuck this. So, do spread that if you can. It's sad to see, but it just is what it is. Riot will always be a fucking perennial disappointment. And they stand for nothing except their own sustained existence and success.